to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the show. Hope you've been enjoying the ones that we've had recently. I've really enjoyed doing them, and this one is going to be just another good one. We finally got somebody to come on the show from the Midwest, which I think is a really overlooked area for Bigfoot, and my guest absolutely agrees with me. They live there. I lived there for many years, and like none of the locals want to believe that it's real or that it could possibly be there, although there's no shortage of sightings, and there's, in my opinion, probably a ton of sightings that have happened there that just nobody will tell it, because why bother? You're not going to make money on it, and everybody's going to ridicule you. Nobody in the area believes it's real, so why are you going to tell anybody? So it's just one of those areas, and so you don't have a whole lot of organized research going on there compared to some other parts of the country. There's not a lot of people that talk about their sightings and whatnot, and so it's kind of great to have somebody on that's had some experiences with Bigfoot in that part of the country, and subsequently done a little bit of digging to find out other stuff about the area where things happen to them, and what the sort of history is around that too. So should be interesting. And with that, let me bring on our guest, Big D. Welcome to World Bigfoot Radio.
Thank you there, Duke.
All right, man. Great to have you with us here. So now you live in central Wisconsin presently, but you've been all over Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. You've had experiences. What's your opinion on the area?
Where I grew up in Tuscaloosa County, Michigan, if you drove around a lot of the area, it's kind of, mostly farmlands, but there's small pockets of woods here and there, but there's drainage ditches, there's creeks and rivers. It's all interconnected, and into other, I would say, game reserves and stuff like that. And up here in central Wisconsin, there's a lot more woods up here. You got the Wisconsin River that runs up through the middle of the state, and it's kind of rugged country up here. There's some high hills, and it's just a beautiful place up there.
Yeah, and central Wisconsin is also, of course, the land of the Beast of Bray Road, where the whole Dogman documenting thing sort of started. So there's that going on there too. That whole area is sort of like at the north end of where the whole mound builder culture that stretched down the Mississippi was at, correct?
Yeah, it's an area right between Madison and Milwaukee, mm-hmm. I believe, in that area there. Elk Mound, was it called, I think, the town? I think the town was called Elk Mound, where the sightings of the brave bull beast was spotted, I guess.
That's some scary stuff. Well, that's not the subject of this one. I don't like talking about that. That's way too scary for me. I'll just stick with Bigfoot. That's scary enough. So, now, I was looking at some of the stats. I grew up in Minnesota. I lived in northern Minnesota and central and southern Minnesota, and over on northern Wisconsin and east central Wisconsin, so all over that area. And I never really got up into Michigan too much, and I was just looking at statistics on that earlier today. And, for people that live outside the U.S., 58,000 square miles is the size of Michigan. And of that, 2/3 of it is woods. Still, and then like the northern half of Wisconsin is mostly woods, and at least the northern half of Minnesota is all woods. It's all connected. So, warning bell right there, gigantic woods, all can for these critters to wander in from somewhere else and be able to get from point A to point B and not have humans spotting them. And then when you get down into the southern areas where you've got all of the farmlands and stuff, you've got drainage all over the place. All these areas are connected by rivers and streams and stuff, which, we've already found out through all the other guests we've had on the show. They like to use those for their travel corridors, like little freeways and stuff. So they can get all over the place in those areas.
Oh, yes. Yeah, if you get up into the airplane, I mean, it's just miles and miles of woods, you know, in the middle of the sections of land, you know, square miles. It's all woods and stuff, a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So, yes, there is definitely the cover that they need to elude us anyways, you know, unseen.
I don't think people realize how incredibly thick some of the cover is. Some of those swamps and bogs and areas like that, especially like in northern Minnesota and whatnot, where you got a lot of that, it's impassable. Unless it's frozen solid, you can't even get across it. My God, you know, huge areas you can't even get to take a look at what's there.
Mhm. Well, yes, like up north here in northern Wisconsin and right through the UP of Michigan.
Yep.
If you go up into those areas there, I mean, you couldn't even, you know, step off the side of the road and, you know, you're up in your knees in water, you know, for miles. You know?
Yeah, a lot of people don't appreciate, they haven't been in the area, don't really realize what we're talking about. It's a lot of areas are all bog, and they just had a grid work, and they went, well, we're going to make a road straight this way. It happens to go across a bog, so what they do is they make a corduroy road initially, where they'd cut down a whole bunch of trees, and they'd lay them across where they wanted the road to go, and just keep filling it in with those until they had a good bed of wood to start with, and then they'd lay gravel across that, and it would sink, and they'd add another layer, and it would sink, and that's how the road got built up, and there got to be an embankment there.
Yeah, that's what during the old logging days, that's what they had done, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of these present day roads around there are old logging roads of years gone by, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is it's not necessarily a, well, you know, we'll follow the hillside going this way sort of thing. No, it was just impassable. They figured out how to make a straight road across the middle of a bog so you could go from point A to point B, or you just couldn't even ever get there. And some of these areas you couldn't build a road like that. You know, so a lot of it's still to this day impassable. Yeah, we've mapped it. We've seen it from satellite. People fly over it. But how often a human actually walks through some of these areas? Really, really rarely. Maybe decades in between humans being in some of these places.
Oh, yes. No doubt about it. That's for sure. Mm-hmm.
So how far back does your interest in Bigfoot go now? Were you interested in the whole subject when you were younger, or did this happen after some experiences?
No. You know, when I was really young, I seen a book in a library, a school library. It was, I think it was called Bigfoot. And it had some stories of like Ape Canyon, or they had that, you know, some other stories in there, and they had a picture of Patty. I'm like, I didn't think it was real, you know, at the time, and of course, years later, I still didn't. But that's when I recognized that, you know, there was something out there that was called a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch. But it wasn't until, you know, later in life as I got my lesson, you know.
Yeah, and how did that all happen? How later in life was it? How old were you the first time that you had an experience that you can, like, later now look back and attribute to maybe?
I was like 21 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, about 21 years old. And I happened here in central Wisconsin. Yeah, I moved here in 91 to central Wisconsin here. And a friend of mine and I, we were big bow hunters, bow hunting deers, and decided to go out to a friend's place a few miles out of town and do some bow hunting there. We're all happy, you know. 2 weeks ago, before we went out there, I had built a little wooden stand up in this tree, and I was looking forward to going up there and getting me a deer. And so we get out there. This was like in September, and we drive up into this hayfield, back in this hayfield, and we get out, get our gear together, and my buddy, he went to the east of me. There was like a creek there called Fenwood. I think it was Fenwood Creek. I think it's the name of the creek was called. But my friend, he went to the east along that river, and I jumped this river to the other side and went straight south. So we were probably a good, I would say, 180 yards away from each other. I was on like the west side, and he was on the east side of this woods.
Yeah, I got a question for you. In September in that part of the country, it can vary incredibly. What was the cover like at that point? Did you still have green on everything, or was it one of those years where it was already like turned color, almost falling off?
Some years here it gets really dry. Other years it's really wet. At that time of the year, it was a dry year, so we had a lot of the trees and everything were kind of mixed. A lot of it was brown and yellow, and there was a lot of greenage yet on the leaves, So it was kind of a dry year. So there wasn't really much color. The fields were dry.
There was still a good amount of cover, though. You hadn't lost any leaves off the trees or anything yet.
Well, it was early September, so not really,
Okay.
But anyways, he went that way and I went the other way, and we sat there in our trees stands and waited till the golden hour of the of when things start to move, and started getting kind of later in the day. The sun was going down, and it was quiet out, and all of a sudden this thing in front of me made a scream that I've never heard before, and it's kind of unnerving. I couldn't see anymore. I got out of the tree, and we both met up by the car, and we were both like, what the heck was that,
Do you have any idea how far away it sounded like it was coming from?
Oh, it was kind of like my buddy was like straight east of me,
right.
And it was probably just a little bit south of us yet. So, God, it was it would have had to have been at least 100 yards away, I would imagine, something like that, to the southeast of me, about 100 yards. But when it screamed, it echoed through the woods,
Wow.
And if you've never heard these things before, it's your hair on the back of your neck stands up,
Yeah.
But when we got out of there, and that's all we talked about all the way home. What the heck was that? And
well, what did you guys think it was? Did you have any idea?
Not really. I've heard all kinds of animals before. When I grew up, I watched a lot of outdoors movies and stuff, so I kind of knew what a lot of animals sounded like, but I didn't know what the heck made that noise. I never heard of it before. But that's why we talked about it all the way, all the way home. But the next week we came back, and
you guys are pretty brave. Would you just decide? Well, it had to be. Let's go back anyway.
I was the type of guy. I never believed in Bigfoot, and if anybody said anything about Bigfoot, I would ridicule them. You're nuts, or you're crazy. I was that guy, and so nothing scared me. I've been in the woods since I was just a little kid, so nothing ever bothered me. We went right back out again, and Same time in the evening, came again. So it made this noise again, but it was closer, maybe half that distance. And that time, yeah, we both came back. We could only hunt the weekend, so we had jobs that we couldn't hunt in the evening.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, we came back, and the darn thing it made that noise again. And well, I got out of the tree, and I got out of there, and at a faster pace this time than the last time. And we both met out into the hayfield at about the same time. He came out too, and we're like, this time we're like, no, what is that? You know, we were just talking about it, and that time it kind of was on me, you know, it was. I didn't know what it was, you know. It was unnerving, you know. And so we drove back home, and he said,
Yeah,
I'm not going.
Do you think it was in about the same place the second time, or did it sound like it was in a different spot?
It was in a different spot, but closer.
Okay. Oh, God. So was it even louder the second time then?
Yeah, the second time was louder. And that's when it was louder. It had to be pretty much between my buddy and me, you know. It was closer.
Oh, wow.
You know. So you're looking at, he was about 180 yards away from me. And it was like somewhere in the middle there, you know, between us. And we never knew what it was. We never saw it, you know. But as we were going home, he says, I'm not coming back. That was it for him. And he didn't come back. And, well, I came back another time.
Oh, my God. How much fun? Wait, was this the same hunting season? You came back there again?
Yeah, I came back the next week. I came back.
Man,
I did not know. Huh?
I said you got balls of steel, Big D.
I did not know what this was, so, you know, I mean, okay, it's some animal, but it's in there, but it's not coming out by me, you know. But I went back again, and this time I could hear this same time in the evening, say about the same time in the evening. I heard it coming towards me through the swamp at the river. The river opens up into like a swamp back there, and it's really thick back there. But anyways, you can hear it going through the water. I thought maybe it was some deer coming, you know, but it wasn't. It's that you could hear it, you know, like bipedal, you know, as it got closer. And then it came towards me. I couldn't see it though, but it must have got as close as 50 yards away, I would guess. But it stopped as it got close to me, and it walked to the north, to my left, to the north. Then it went back. Then it went down to the south of me, and it turned around and came back to the same way it came from. And it went a little ways back into the lump, and it must have like turned around or something, because then it screamed at me. This time I could feel it, you know. I could feel the vibrations from this noise that it was making.
What kind of a scream did it give you? You've heard other Bigfoot calls since then that are, you know, famous and whatnot. Was it like a roar or the siren type scream that they gave?
Yes, yes. It was like a roar, siren, high pitch kind of a scream. You know, it started out low, you know, like a growling low, up to a high pitch, like a siren sound. And it only did it once, though. It didn't do it many times, or it did it only once that I remember.
When you heard it wading around or sloshing around out there in the swampy area or whatever, did it sound like it was on something on two legs, or did it sound like some kind of big animal, or could you tell?
What had happened was it must have been like running through the water fast, way back, but as it got closer, it started just like slow down, and then you can hear just the step, boom, 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 you know what I mean? You could tell it was on something on two legs, not a da-dun or anything like that, like what a deer would sound like, or a horse or whatever. But you could tell that it was on two legs when it was coming near us.
Okay, so now you heard this thing moving around out there. You're listening to it moving around out there. All of a sudden, it lets out the same horrible, siren scream that you heard two times before. You heard it walking around on two legs. You know that ain't no normal animal at this point. What did you do at this point? What did you do?
Hey, Duke, I was 12 feet up in the air in this homemade tree stand. I jumped from the top of that tree stand onto the ground and ran out of there. I did not want to.
Well done, man. You acted wisely. Wow.
I jumped the creek. There's a little area of the creek where there's a high bank and it's real narrow through there, so you can jump over it. And then there's a nice trail. It goes right through tall grass, But then you end up into the hayfield. But I got out of there and got onto the hayfield and went to this lady's house, the lady, this farm here, that owned the place. I knocked on her door. I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I went over there, I walked along the cornfield, and there was tracks in there. I saw tracks. They were big tracks going through the corn. It was a dry year, so the corn was kind of short. The corn maybe in that area where it walked through was 4 or 5 feet tall in that corner. So, when I was coming around there, I could see these tracks in there. And
if it was a dry year, that sometimes means the fields are actually fairly compact, and so for something to leave tracks, it has to be wailing heavy. So that must have impressed you right away when you saw that too.
Well, yeah, I saw these tracks, and they had to have been at least 17 inches,
Oh, Jesus. That's way too big for a bear in that area.
Yeah. And the impression was at least, I would say, 2 inches into this dirt.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And it was hard, I hardly made any dent at all when I walked through it,
Right.
And you could just see the outline of the boot or whatever, But this thing had sunk into the dirt, and it looked like it was kind of fresh, And but there was kind of a weird looking track. It kind of had longer toes to it, and then its side toe was stuck back a little bit, kind of almost like if you saw like a gorilla's foot, kind of like, but longer, real long, But skin, it wasn't that wide. It was, I would say at least 6 inches wide, but it was long, real long, And the stride had to have been at least 5 feet between each step. And each step was in a straight line, It's all, I looked at that and I was like, that's pretty odd. And that's when I said, no way. I just heard this thing out there and I saw these tracks. That's the first time it got to my head, no way, these things aren't supposed to exist,
Or they do their way over in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, right?
Yes, that's the first time I thought, that's when I realized that this is something out here, it's not supposed to exist. And I just heard it, and I just see the tracks now. And so then now I'm going towards this lady's house, It's getting darker out now by the time I got to her house. And her house is a couple 100 yards away from where I was, over by the cornfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I knocked on her door. I says, "What the heck do you got out here? What the heck's messing around out here?" And I asked if she had a huge spotlight on her, and she did. And I took it, but yeah, she had said that she don't know what's out here, but sometimes at night the barn doors would be, rattling, and she knows that there's something out there, but couldn't put her finger on what it was. And that's, I didn't see the thing, but I saw the tracks, and that thing, it made that noise. Oh man, it's
Yeah,
that was
like, to me, that's
unnerving.
good circumstantial evidence to make you want to leave the area at least. That definitely would have worked on me.
I've been deer hunting for a long time. I ran into bears, and and bears don't want nothing to do of you. They'll leave. They don't want nothing to do with you. I think they smell you a mile away. They'll go in the opposite direction. That's the way the bears are. But this thing was coming towards me. You knew it had that ape. It does everything like an ape would do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Its behavior was ape-like, and that's no bear. That was kind of odd. But yeah, that was my first eye opening of of a Bigfoot.
So there you are, 21. All of a sudden, Bigfoot's real. Did you get a lot more interested in researching it at that point, or what happened?
For the rest, not really, but it affected me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I thought, I'd go down in where I used to work, and I told somebody about it. And the next day we came back down there. I showed him the tracks, and he's like, "Whoa, what the heck?" And then he left.
Wish you would have snapped a picture of him.
Oh yeah, I did back then. We never carried phones. We never had cell phones. We never carried cameras around or anything like that. But I really never thought about taking a picture or making a cast, or it was just one of those things where at the time I really didn't know what it was yet. Then you realize, okay, that it's no bear, But at the time, I've never experienced anything like that, so Bigfoot wasn't going through my head at the time. I wasn't thinking about Bigfoot. But when I did see that track, I was putting it all together. No way,
So how did that affect you wanting to be hunting it out in the woods then? Did you just tough it out and say, yeah, well, whatever, I'm just going to keep going?
Well, yeah, I did. That's the way I just knew that wood's there. I never had a feeling like that when I was out in that woods there. The other woods I've gone to, I never had that feeling, I had that feeling of being watched. Just gave me the vibes,
Mm-hmm.
That was the only woods that I really felt that way, when I was in that woods. It was kind of creepy. Gave you the creepy feeling,
Yeah, I've experienced that myself too, man. There's some places like that where you can just tell right away as soon as you look at the area. It's like, nope, don't go there.
Yeah. Where I hunt now, I've been hunting there for over 26 years, and I never got that feeling, So I know they're not around there in that part of the area.
Yeah.
But that there, yeah, it was you could tell that there was something not normal, something watching you. You know, there was something there. So definitely, it. But anyways, yeah, it affected me for the rest of my life. That was an eye opener. It wasn't until later on in years and then I, when I started telling people, and then all of a sudden I start hearing other people from that area start talking about it. You know, there's other neighbors around that area. There was one neighbor that I worked with. He lived out there, and he had told me that one time he was down in his basement and he saw these feet go by his window in the basement.
Oh, geez.
And he told me about that, and he says another time he was doing some logging out there in the woods there, clearing up. And one time he got done sawing something up with his chainsaw, and all of a sudden this tree back there started swaying back and forth, and this thing started making all kinds of noise. And he had told me that they knew about it. There was something out there, and I told him where I was hunting, and he says, "Yeah, I just lived a mile and a half north of there."
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's like basically the same spot as far as a Bigfoot is concerned.
Yeah, it's his area there,
Yeah.
But,
they move around fast, and, they can cover a lot of ground real quick.
Yeah.
We think of, like, let's put it in their perspective, sort of. We'll just imagine that, if you're that much bigger and you can move that much faster than we can, like us walking 100 yards, it'd be like about the same as them going a mile.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
To them, it looks like the same distance as like 100 yards looks to us. I'll walk 100 yards, no big deal. That's
but
how they look at them.
as years went by, this is years later, and not too long ago, I have heard about a lot of different things that have gone on out there. I've worked with another guy who used to hear those wailing noises, in the distance, and there was this other guy that lived out there. He lived out there, this farmer. Well, he ended up selling the place. I think he might have, I don't know what happened, but some people say he committed suicide or something. What happened one time was that a lot of times he'd be doing his dishes in his kitchen, and he got his back kitchen faces the back of the property. He's got apple trees all back there. Well, this thing would come up there and eat apples and stuff, and at night knock on his side of his house and stuff like that, and he had enough of it. He'd tell people that, and they just ridicule him, that there was something out there, and the guy ended up, I guess, killing himself. But, well, that was a neighbor that had told me that I went to this, down in Weston. It's in the central part of Wisconsin here. They had a Finding Bigfoot, BFRO had a little conference,
yeah.
a town meeting, yes. So I decided to go to it, I wanted to see, okay, if there's any, I was hoping maybe somebody from that area would come in, and sure enough, the first speaker of the night, this farmer, he was from that area. And he was only a mile away from where I hunted, along the same river. And anyways, he said that this happened back in 2010. It was in the middle of summer. I think it was July or something like that. They had just got done baling straw. And it was 90 degrees out, 95 degrees outside. It was a hot day. It was in the evening, he said. Then 5:30 before chores. We milk cows out there. And he says, yeah, we just got done baling the hay, and we were coming up to the barn, and we looked back. And he says the house and barn and all that's kind of like up on a hill, so you could see back in the fields back there. He said, yeah, back there, a little ways back there, there's a little wet area back there, and then in front of that was the field that they baled. But he says, yeah, there was some areas around there where they didn't cut it down. So there was still some oats up there, you know. And he was saying, he was looking, and he thought maybe there was a bear out there. What the heck, you know? And he told his wife to go get the binoculars. And she brought the binoculars out, and he was looking through the binoculars, and all you see this thing leaning over and it's swinging its arms back and forth, grabbing oats and putting it in his mouth. You know, and it's bent over doing this. And
wait, bears don't do that.
Yeah. And his daughter was out there too. She's seen it too. But anyways, so he jumped on the four-wheeler and thought, okay, what's somebody doing out there, you know, because it stood up. He thought it was some person out there. And so he hopped on the four-wheeler and drove out to where this thing was. By the time he was getting out there by the thing, it was already walking at a fast pace to the east towards the river, which was on another guy's property. There was another oat field there that hadn't been harvested yet. And it was heading towards that way. Well, he caught up to it. He says, I was doing about 50 miles an hour on my four-wheeler to catch up to this thing. And it was doing at a fast hiker's jog, he said, about that fast. And he caught up to it. And he said he got within about 10 feet away from this thing and realized this thing wasn't no person. He says it had been at least 8 feet tall. And it was walking like an ape, he says, when it was walking away, you know, how an ape walks. You know, swinging its arms back and forth, you know, and
except running really fast, which apes don't run really fast on their hind legs. They go
well, he said it actually wasn't running really. It was just at a good pace, you know, like he said, like a good jogger's pace, you know,
right,
about that speed. But it wasn't running or nothing. It was just at a good pace. Mm-hmm. And he got right up to it, about 10 feet away, and this thing stopped and turned around. It was going do like a buff charge like at him, you know. Mm-hmm. And but then it, you know, he stopped and then it turned around and started going back, you know, towards where it was going, heading to. But he followed it all the way up to that woods, and he told the neighbor about it, and the neighbor took over and looked for the track. He had to go back and start doing chores, you know, and milking cows, so he didn't go any further.
Well, I'm not sure you'd want to after that. It's like, what the hell is that thing? It stopped and bluff charged me, and I'm not going out there again.
Yeah, this guy said he you know, he was actually scared, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He says it didn't you know, he said the face didn't look real. He says it had big eyes, you know, and almost looked like a mask.
More like a human or more like an ape, or did he give any kind of description along those lines? Or
well, he had said that it had big eyes, you know, and it had like a, you know, its face was like a human's, like, but you know, it had a big nose. Everything exceptionally big, you know. Mm-hmm. No, he didn't see any ears because the hair was covering the sides. But he had described it as the color was like a brown, more reddish brown color, mm-hmm. like a brown. But I can't know how to explain that, but it blended in really good, you know, with its surroundings. That's what he said, you know. If it had if it was laying in the grass dry grass, you probably wouldn't have seen it, you know.
Right.
It's kind of
yeah.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, I was so happy to hear that somebody else was there. That
right there too. I mean, right there where you saw yours practically.
Well, yeah, you know. Now I knew. Okay, I wasn't nuts. That was something, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was something. There's maybe a family that lives out there. I have no idea, but
could even be just a lone individual living out there. It's usually it seems like there's more than one in any given place. You don't usually find just one, but you know, I mean, it could be the same individual that was scaring you away. That, you know, get out of here, deer hunters. This is my area. You know,
yeah,
could have been the same one.
You never know. It could be. You know, it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the way it was walking away, you know, maybe it sounded like it might have been getting older. You know, and couldn't run away fast enough or whatever.
I just find the behavior of it out there actually taking advantage of the grain and like scooping the grain off of the stalks and eating them. You know, that's something that you don't usually get reports from anybody actually seen that happen.
Right. What's you could tell there must have been some sort of intelligence there. I better eat some of the grain before it's gone, because these humans over here are yelling it up and taking it all down. You know?
Well, it's interesting that, you know, like apparently he's aware of it. He knows that it's food. He's harvesting and eating it. That means he's probably doing that on a fairly regular basis as soon as it's available, because they take advantage of everything in their environment. So as soon as the grain's harvestable, he's probably out there horking it down as fast as he can before the farmer cuts it down and takes it away.
Yeah, right. But, that's exactly what must have been what happened, you know.
And that gives you another reason why they'd be hanging around a certain area like that. Look, you know, he's figured out how to take advantage of what the farmer's growing, probably to a level that the farmer would never even notice that anything was going on, because he's got big fields and whatnot, right? And there's deer right around there. He's eating the deer, so he's got plenty of food. You know, and this always baffles me when people go, well, they migrate all over the place. Well, why? You know, if you're in an area that's livable year round and you've got a steady food supply there and you're not getting bothered, what's your motivation to go anywhere else?
And when you have a creek that drains into other big reservoir areas and stuff like that, you know. We've got.
And that's it. You know, if your food supply in the area that you're in starts running low, you take advantage of those travel routes and just go to the nearest one where there's food available. Right.
And like I said, you know, that creek goes that creek goes right into the Old Plain Reservoir, and then the Old Plain Reservoir goes right to the Wisconsin River. And the Wisconsin River goes all the way up to the Mississippi, you know.
And there's a giant tributary that they can follow to get pretty much anywhere.
Oh, yeah, right. That creek there was just a finger, you know, that branched off from the big reservoir, you know. So, there's plenty of food around the area, that's for sure. Lots of deer. I mean, they grow everything around here, you know. You know, the soybeans and corn.
Well, and that's just like bonus to them. That's in addition to all the natural food sources that they're taking advantage of around there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so they've got all the natural buffet that they're used to taking advantage of. Plus, the dumb humans have food all over the place that they can make off with, to the point where we don't even notice it, because there's so much around there. You know, it's mass production. So for them, it's like, woohoo, bonus points. You know, I can not only have all this other yummy natural food that's around here, but I got all this stuff the humans are creating that's lying around here that I can take too.
Yeah, and they also have that. I don't know if they. I suppose they probably do. We've got that ginseng around here. You've heard of ginseng, right? Yeah, it's a root that they harvest for medicine. It's like an energy. They put it in energy drinks and stuff like that. this is one of the few areas in the world that they grow it here. You know, it grows really good in Marathon County in central Wisconsin there. But,
I know there's other places where there's like people that actually, you know, actively go out in the woods to find where it grows and try and harvest it, and it's like it isn't that easy to find. There's not that much of it, and they're sort of depleting what there is of it. And you're right, there's very few places that you can actually grow it, and it'll just grow.
Right. Yeah, it needs a shady area, you know, and but yeah, it's hard to find that stuff. Most of it in the wild nowadays is it's gone, you know. But it's around. But you just gotta know what to look for, you know.
Well, and we got, you know, plenty of anecdotal evidence that that's probably one of their food sources. You know, people have seen them digging in the ground and stuff like that too, and it's very likely that they're taking advantage of, you know, tubers and roots and whatnot like that, just like we do. We eat potatoes, dig up the root ball and eat it, you know.
Yeah, you know, summertime they take advantage of all this, you know, greenery. You know, the heck with the, you know, I'm sure they take a deer here and there, but not like they do in the wintertime, you know. But
no, that's wintertime food supply for sure. That's like there's not any green stuff.
Yeah. The summertime they're just basically, you know, hiding out in the woods and basking on the supply of the berries and roots and stuff like that, you know, insects, whatever they can get a hold of, mushrooms, whatever.
Yep.
But
slugs.
Slugs.
Kat mentioned that. She's seen a couple of the younger ones eat slugs, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know that was edible. Apparently, slugs are edible."
That's funny.
But yeah, they're masters of taking advantage of their environment. You know, and you figure like huge omnivore, intelligent, it's just going to do that, you know, and opportunistic. So they're smart. They figure out there's a food source around. They figure out how to take advantage of it. And, you know, bears, which by comparison would be dim-witted, are easily smart enough to do that. They know exactly where the berry patch is, when the berries are going to be ripe, and when to show up and eat them. And they don't bother to be there the rest of the year. Well, you figure Bigfoot can't figure that out. Oh, I know exactly when all these pumpkins are going to be ripe, and some of them are going to go down my throat into my tummy, you know, because I know exactly where they are and when they're going to be ready to go. You know, so, yeah, you know, they take advantage of all that sort of stuff because they can eat a lot of different things.
You know, they say that, you know, these Bigfoot they migrate. I don't think so. I think they just have a huge, a big area that they cover, you know.
Right.
That they from season to season, you know. They know where the big deer yards are at in the winter, and they know where the berries and stuff are, you know, summer and fall, and whose apple trees to go to and stuff like that, you know. I just think they just know where to go in certain time of the year, you know. So you almost expect them to be in this area this time, but it's a big range, you know. It's a big area that they have, you know. I don't think they just they're going to migrate 100 miles south, you know, from here or whatever like that. But I think it's just that they're moving around in this area, you know. You know, like I said, they'll just find the big deer herds in the area, hang out there in the wintertime, and in the summertime go back to where they're most comfortable to be, you know, hidden and lots of, you know, greenery to eat, you know, stuff like that. But I don't think it's a really. It's big, you know. I think it's a big range that they have. I just really do, you know.
Again, let's compare them to a known, obvious example that lives in the same environment and takes advantage of a lot of the same food sources, another omnivore, the black bear. There was research that they were doing on this all the way back when I was a kid in the area I was living in, and a decent-sized black bear had a range. It was about 40 miles across, and he would cover that area. In fact, he'd do a circuit. He'd sort of like cover the perimeter of it and maybe crossed across the middle of it a few times or whatever. And it's sort of random, but it was like there was this box or circle or whatever that was his territory in it. And within the course of about 2 weeks, he'd cover like the majority of it, and then he'd come back to where he had been 2 weeks before. And it's almost like clockwork. Like if you saw the bear here 2 weeks before, come back 2 weeks later, and it's probably there again. And it's really kind of weird, but it's like they've got a route, and they'll take this route around their territory, and how they vary the route is by available food sources. So it's like, okay, I always hit the dump over here every 2 weeks when I go by. I'm hitting that. Oh, now it's time for this berry patch to be ripe. I'll deviate and go over here and eat berries for a couple of days, and then I'm going to go back over here and check in this river. There should be fish here by now, sort of thing. But it's like, yeah, you know, and so even a black bear, territory 40 miles across, well, Bigfoot's going to need a territory about the same size in order to feed itself, right? Yeah. So if there's a troop of Bigfoot, you got a territory 40, 50, 60 miles across, and anywhere within that area, they could be wandering around at any given time. Now, the other variation on this is how dense the food supply is, because if they've got a really dense food supply, lots of veggies, lots of, you know, whatever it is that they're eating, lots of water, lots of cover, they may not have to move hardly at all. You know, they might be able to live in one really small area and not have to hardly ever move at all. So you don't see them go anywhere else. Well, they don't need to go anywhere else, so why would they go there?
Yeah, especially, you know, you go to the residentials and people take out their garbage on, you know, Tuesday or Friday night, you know, and they'll raid those too, you know.
And it's predictable. Even like raccoons and stuff figure that out, and the bears, they'll raid the garbage cans, you know.
So yeah,
Bigfoot's doing it. They have hands. They can pick up the lid, pull the food out they want to eat, and put the lid back down again. I don't think they do that a lot. I think that's sort of a rare thing. I think they avoid eating human garbage because I don't think they trust what it is. But if it's in a situation where they're like hurt or starving or something like that, or just, you know, live or old, losing their teeth, they live right next to a campground, and they've learned that they can get away with it. And they're sort of doing that all the time, seeing examples of that. There's one over I mentioned to you in Interstate Park, you know, like a couple decades ago, where every spring there was one that was going around the campgrounds in the spring and collecting up, eating the garbage after people were there. You know, because you know what it's like by spring. There's not berries or anything. Everything just started growing. There's not a lot of food available. But there's all these dumb humans showing up and camping because it's warm enough, and they're leaving all their yummy food lying around. So every night, you know, you'd hear from one can to the other on the campground that, you know, somebody's walking around checking all the trash cans in the middle of the night. Why would they be doing that in the middle of the night?
Yeah, right. I've had an incident like that too, though. I'm coming back home from Wisconsin to Michigan. I was on I-75. There's a way station way up north, south of the bridge, Mackinac Bridge, and it's out by itself. And it was late at night. I like to travel at night, you know, less cars on the road, and you can really make time. And I got tired and pulled over to this way station, and I started smelling this thing. You know, I know what they smell like now. You know, this skunky, bad body odor smell. You know, it just hangs in the air. You know, but I knew there was one in there. You know, must have been checking out the trash bins and stuff. It was late at night, 2, 3 in the morning, when I stopped there, and there was nobody else there around, just me. Yeah, they like to raid trash cans and.
Well, now if you knew what it smelled like, now when did you smell one before that? Because you're skipping something here.
Oh yes, I am. The second time that this is my second encounter now. This happened in 2009. I had went home to Michigan, and we had a family reunion we were going to, And I decided to take the kids. It was like a Wednesday, and we were there a whole week. It was a Wednesday, and it was hot out, 90 degrees or so. And we decided to go to a park. And we went to this park that's called Sanilac Petroglyphs State Park in the middle of the Thumb area there in Sanilac County. And, well, we were the only ones there. And we went up and saw the rock underneath the shelter, and then we walked the trail. There's a trail that goes all the way around the park in there. And they got cool little signs over by little rock outcrops and some trees that let you know what they are and stuff. And way in the back there's an old lumber camp
cool.
back there. Yeah, there's an old lumber camp back there that not much to it anymore, but there's an area where you can see where it's at. But yeah, you walk along. But anyways, we were walking along and we went around and we went by this one big tree. There's a big pine tree there, and we were walking by this big pine tree, and there's like a little, right before that, there's like this little meadow area or whatever, and there was a bunch of pines, and all of a sudden we got whiffed of a smell, and everybody at once. I had my daughter and two of my boys with me, you know, and they were young at the time, and we all at once said skunk, right? And all of a sudden, just in front of us, a few I don't know how far away, maybe it was close, maybe 100 feet in front of us behind the small pines and stuff. We couldn't see what was over there. All of a sudden, this thing made two whoops. You know, made the whoop sounds, and it sounded just like an ape, you know. And it started running off. Boom! You know, you could feel if you hear like horses running,
right?
When you
that
hear
big
the
impact
shot,
thud on the ground.
the impact when you hear that. Well, anyways, when this thing was running away, you could hear that it had some weight to it, and it was only bipedal to it. You know, you could hear it boom, 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 boom when it was running away, but there was more of them. So I figure it must have been a family of these things. There was like a creek up just in front of us up there with a little bridge over there. And that was another 100 feet we had to go to get to this bridge that went across this creek, a river creek. It wasn't very big, but as we got to that bridge there was this tree that was about 4 inches wide, swaying. So the only thing I could figure was something was in the water, grabbed a hold of the tree to get it, help itself to get out of the water. That's the only thing I could think of. What made that tree sway like that, you know?
Right.
And when we heard that whoop whoop, that was kind of to the left of us as we were going to the east down this trail. It was more to the left of us, like it was trying to tell the other ones down by the creek, you know, danger. And then they all took off, you know.
Well, how did the kids react to this?
Well, like my kids, my daughter's like, no way, you know, those things aren't supposed to exist, you know. And I just told them, you know, it sounds like that was a Bigfoot, you know. And my younger boy, he was little at the time, and we were by the bridge there, and he's like, let's get going, you know. He was kind of scared about the situation. So then we left, and
that's kind of the opposite of what you'd expect. The daughter's incredulous and the boy's freaked out by it.
Yeah.
You sort of expect the daughter to be freaked out and the boy to be going, no way.
Yeah, right. And my oldest son, he didn't say anything. And yeah, that was the first time I've actually really smelled them, you know, really close like that. And you know, when you smell this, it comes and goes as fast. You know, It'll come and goes. You know, it goes with them. You know, doesn't hang around. And to make a point too, skunks don't smell. Skunks, they'll spray and the area will smell for days, you know. Yeah. And I can tell the difference now between a skunk and one of these creatures. The skunk has more of a sweeter smell to it, a musky smell, and these things here are more like somebody hasn't a guy has been working out all day and hasn't put any deodorant on for days, you know. Mm-hmm. Well, these things kind of smell like that, you know, but it's really strong. But yeah, you can tell the difference of what these things smell like. And yeah, when it left and it did those whoops, you know, and then they left. And I knew right away, okay, there's nothing out there that makes those kind of noise. The whoops, and it was loud, you know.
Escape monkeys. You got escape monkeys running around.
Yeah, you know.
It's no normal animals that make anything like a whoop around that area. The only thing that's even remotely similar is a loon, and they don't whoop either.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an encounter, I believe. We didn't see them, but I believe that was an encounter. In this creek here, there's a lot of mussels and crayfish in there. Mm-hmm. And it's real, you know. It wasn't really. It's not really deep either. It was a hot day, you know. So they must have been, you know, getting a drink of water and having themselves a delicacy of the
crayfish. Yeah.